Okay, you're
Excellent.
broadcasting and we are recording.
Great, thank you, Daphne. Time is now 7 o'clock. This is Justin McCullen. I'm the chair of the TMAC. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. So TMAC members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Anthony Delgado. Nope, I think he stepped away. He is there. Let's see, Ryan Harland. Let's see. Lieutenant McGrath.
Present.
Excellent. Seth Bauer.
Present.
Thank you. Rebecca Tarantino.
Present.
She was. Yep. Donna Mullen. Let's see. Marcus absent, and Suzanne Stein.
Present.
Great. So for the staff, sorry about that. Let's see here. We have, my apologies. And Bob Wilson.
Yes, here.
All right. And actually, now that I see Tony on the screen, say present. There you go. Now he's here. For the record. And anticipated speakers, we have Nicole Hagler. Or is someone speaking for Nicole?
Yeah, John Hagler. I'm her.
John. And also, Daphne is doing the minutes as well. She is here.
Present.
All right, so good evening. This open meeting of the TMAC committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, during the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of a COVID virus. You think after so many times that I would have this memorized, but in order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have meetings in a publicly available physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so as long as reasonable public access is afforded so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The meeting is a webinar and will allow public comment. For this meeting, the TMAC is convened by Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. So please note this meeting is being recorded and some of the attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, be aware that other folks may be able to see you and take note not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided to the members of the body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. We're going to be in a minute, we're going to be returning to the first item of the agenda, but as we go down to each item, we'll give, and really technically have one petitioner tonight, give you a couple minutes to talk about your issue. We have actually received them ahead of time. We have kind of read them, but not, we definitely want to give you the ability to talk about the issues, talk about some of the challenges, and we can kind of come to some sort of remedy to see what we can do to help out. But also for others, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor. And we will have a public comment on the one item. And if there are, then are there any members? We'll open the line for public comments by raising the hand. For those participating by computer, the raised hand option will be found by clicking in the participants button on the bottom screen. It will bring us options to choose. Select the raised hand. For those participating by mobile device, click the more button at the bottom right and select raised hand. And after we see that we see the raised hand, you'll be offered up to 3 minutes to make any public comments before we make a vote. And finally, each vote tonight will be conducted by roll call vote, just because of the technology glitch. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns before we go to the first item on the agenda? Not hearing any so far, so we'll want to approve the minutes now. So I think everyone has gotten. We had The issue of last meeting was technically it was not posted by the town clerk's office, and so within the time allotted. So any of those votes that we did that day were not technically considered valid. So we're going to be revoting at least 3 votes that we're going to be putting on the record for this meeting, so that we can get everything, all the I's dotted and the T's crossed on everything. So. So the second item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from January 13th, which we did do on the unofficial, or they called it a, forget what the meeting was called, a non-meeting. So do I hear a motion to accept the minutes from January 13th, 2021?
I move to accept the minutes.
Hear from Seth, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Excellent. We have a second from I saw Suzanne. So Daphne, if we could do the roll call for this motion to accept the January 13 minutes.
Mr.
And for the
Delgado,
sake, actually, before we do that, for the sake of simplicity, can we do that and the meeting minutes at the same time in the same vote, or we do have to do them separately?
you can do them at the same time.
So just for the sake of going through this, has everyone looked at the meeting notes, because we can't call them minutes from last meeting that were sent with the packet? And this is all the public comment. This is basically what we did, what we can't actually call them minutes, so we call them meeting notes. Seth, can I amend your motion to accept both the January 13th minutes as well as the meeting notes from March 10th?
Yes, I would like to move to accept both documents.
Perfect. And Suzanne, you had seconded. Would you extend your second for that motion?
I extend my second.
Excellent.
All right, Mr. Delgado,
Aye.
Mr. Hoyland,
Aye.
Lieutenant McGrath,
Aye.
Mr. McCullen,
Aye.
Mr. Bauer,
Aye.
Ms. Tarantino,
Aye.
Ms. Stein.
I think she said, oh. Either way, if she said no.
The motion passes.
Excellent. Excellent, thank you. So I think we want to move on to the status report for other business. And if we have that, let me see, I have to switch back from my, Bob, do we have I know you sent it out. Is there anything you want to comment on the status report?
There's 2 things. It's a 2-part option here. The first part is you asked last week if we should go over some of my items from the March meeting again. When you had a chance to look a little bit more on the background, particularly at, I believe it was West Street and Stevens Road that I brought up last month. And you said you wanted to bring it up again now regarding just the background, when you had a chance to kind of look at it again, to figure out what
Yes.
the people were actually looking for.
Yes, and I'm not going to lie, I haven't. I'm going to kick that to the next meeting if you don't mind. Because
Okay.
unless anyone else has any comment on that, I just don't, I had forgotten that's on me. And I do remember that now, but I had not done that.
Okay. I just jot this down quick.
I do remember that now.
Okay.
I can add it as an item for our next meeting in June. That way we don't forget about it. West
Perfect,
Street,
yes, that would be great.
West
West
Street
End?
and Stevens Road.
West Street
Round.
and Stevens Road. Okay,
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah.
good.
Okay. As for this meeting, a couple of new developments have happened. The children playing signs on Second Avenue near A Street have been installed. That was last week, I believe, if I recall correctly. The Jarvis Circle second round for the springtime count at Jarvis Circle has been completed. The volume northbound on Jarvis, this is near Nardone Road, kind of between Nardone Road and the other end of Jarvis as it goes around.
Yep.
Was 135 vehicles northbound and 103 vehicles southbound. And the 85% speeds were 22 northbound and 23 southbound. So less than 30.
Right.
A couple things in that neighborhood also. I have just picked up today the counts on Nardone Road in that area. I just don't have the analysis with me for this meeting on that one.
Okay.
And I'm working in that area continually for the next couple of weeks. So I'll get
Okay.
Beth Road in a couple.
Perfect. I think once we have all those in together, we can figure out what the.
Yeah, I
what
just
the
wanted
next
to give you a
step
heads up.
will be. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
flowing.
No, I appreciate that, Bob.
Okay, and then also we just completed a count on Warren Street near Great Plain Avenue. This is for the gentleman in the parking on one side, and it was a little speedy coming off the
Yeah.
Dedham Avenue. The counts on that are northbound traffic 468, southbound traffic 708, 705, I'm sorry. And the speeds northbound, 85% speeds are 28 northbound and 29 southbound. They're closer to 30, but not
Yeah.
30 quite yet.
Okay.
That's generally where we are as far as the updates go.
Okay. Are there any questions from the members of the committee with regards to this update?
Yeah, let me ask a quick question, which is, Bob, does any of that
Sure.
information cause us to want to revisit any of these issues or introduce new motions about addressing any of these sites?
I would say generally not. There's the count on Warren Street might be skewed just a bit because there was construction going on and they had construction vehicles nearby, which might have acted kind of like as a chicane in the road, so kind of slow the traffic down a little. That's the only thing that I can think of. I mean, otherwise they're below the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit. And on Jarvis, I think we should wait until we get a general picture of everything out there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Unless anyone else has anything, Bob, is that good for the updates?
Yeah, that's pretty much it for right now.
Excellent, thank you. So we can move on to the next item, which is number 4, signage at intersection of Bond Street and Falcon Street. Mr. Hagler?
Great, thanks. Thanks for letting me speak today. So I'm asking for a 4-way stop sign at the intersection of Falcon and Bond Street. This isn't, from what I've researched looking through old meetings, this is not a new issue. It's been in front of this committee before, I think at least 2 or 3 times. 2017, 2019, it looks like there's been traffic studies, actually going back 2009. There's also a petition by the neighborhood. I think there were like 55 people that signed a petition a few years ago. So many of you, I assume, were involved in those conversations. So there's some awareness. I guess what I want to emphasize to the committee, which might not come through the traffic study based on volume or speed, is really the uniqueness of the intersection. As if you're aware of the intersection, it isn't a standard 4-way intersection, right? You have it's like a 45-degree angle for Falcon that comes off, and that is and you're coming down from 2 hills, so it makes it very confusing. So you have a group of people that treat it like a 4-way stop sign already. Like if I drive through it, I almost treat it like a 4-way stop sign. You have others who fly through it. This gets exacerbated with snow piles, with cars that are parked on Falcon right by that intersection, which there tends to be. So it's really hard to see. So there's confusion both for the drivers, there's confusion for people who are crossing, because you almost expect it to be a four-way stop sign, and you could just, if you look and watch people, you see there's just a lot of confusion. It's a school crossing route that goes up Falcon. So it's right at that intersection. And then I guess the last thing I would add is it looked like, so last year, the remedy was to put that dotted line, that curved dotted line through the intersection. And from what I've observed, I would say 90% of the cars that go through the intersection are on the wrong side of that dotted line. It is not serving the function it's supposed to serve. And it happens so often that it's just so clear to everybody who living in the neighborhood that this should be a four-way stop sign. And then just to put sort of an exclamation point on this, there was a police detail a couple weeks ago because the sewer line was getting torn up right on Bond Street. And as my understanding, the police officer gave a citation to somebody and he remarked there should be a four-way stop sign here. So if the police officer who's on the ground there is recognizing that, I feel like common sense says there should be a four-way stop sign.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Hegler. I know that I started looking up a couple things that I know that we did in December 2019 was the tracking lines. And I would probably, I know common sense says that we can do a lot of things, but we're kind of restricted. The town is restricted to kind of some regulations called the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which has both, it's a federally set of standards, as well as Massachusetts has their own amendments to those. And so they determine and they kind of help to guide municipalities to say what meets the criteria to put markings, to put stop signs, to put signals, to put things in. So traffic control devices. And so there is a manual for that. And I will kind of kick this over to our traffic and engineering folks to kind of explain some of that. So some of this you might say, and because we see this a lot when people say, oh, we should put a stop sign here, or we should do this. Well, unfortunately, some things don't meet, they're called warrants, which are criterias for doing a stop sign. And so either way, but I'll kind of, Tony or Bob, is there some content that you want to talk about, some history of this? Because I only joined Stu as well, probably in 2018. So I've seen this issue once, but I have heard that this issue came up before, this intersection, on more than one occasion. So either I kind of, or I know Rain has joined us to kind of get some history and content on this intersection.
Okay, as far as the history lesson, there was a count done in 2017 at Falcon and Bond, which show that the traffic entering Bond Street from Falcon, north of Bond on Falcon, is 427 vehicles coming that way. Street heading into Falcon Street is 204 vehicles. The Falcon Street traffic was traveling at 85% speed of 33 miles per hour, and the Bond Street traffic was heading in at 27 miles per hour. That's what I can tell you for now. Now, typically, and then we can expand on this, but typically we don't try to stop the approach that has more traffic on it than the lesser approach. We try to stop the lesser approach.
Yeah, my understanding is one of the warrants is you have to have kind of symmetrical balance between the traffic. And so we do have almost a 2-to-1 ratio based on these counts, based on 2017. But
right.
Okay.
But sorry, if I could just ask a question, which is, and I saw those numbers in old minutes, but how do you differentiate between a regular four-way stop sign or a regular four-way intersection and one that has these mitigating factors? And shouldn't that also come into play, the fact that it's this weird curved intersection that introduces additional risks and confusion outside of the numbers?
So yeah, is there anything that, either engineering or Bob, you do have? Because
I
it
think-
isn't, I mean, that's right. I don't know what is it considered a four-way, you know what I mean? Could it be considered a four-way, or is it just is it a two-way with like a weird? Is there any comment from either Rain or Bob, if you have any further comment, or Tony? I recognize Tony's had a hand up.
Mr. Chairman, it is a four-way intersection.
Okay.
There's twice as much traffic on Falcon than there is on Bond. It's not in balance. And one of the criteria, one of the warrants is that it has to be balanced in order to put in a four-way stop sign. If it's not balanced, it doesn't meet the warrants and you cannot put in a stop sign.
Right,
Four-way.
that's my point. The fact that it's curved, it is a intersection, but the fact that it's curved has to be an additional point you consider besides the balance, because you end up introducing blind spots, and it is a very dangerous. It's not your typical intersection, so I don't think you can just go by the regular book that says it needs to be in balance by a certain ratio, because there's other mitigating factors here, which is why this continues to be brought up by people in the neighborhood.
We can certainly take some measurements for blind spots to see whether there's at least 200 feet. So, we could certainly do that. Bob, can you schedule that to go out and measure the site distance?
Yeah, I'm writing it down right now.
But I guess the thing is, since this addressed like a year ago, and the committee decided that it would put those dotted lines in as a way to, it recognized there was a problem and to put those dotted lines in to address this problem, but those dotted lines are not being followed at all. So it seems to me that something else would need to be done, because what was used to address it a year ago is clearly not working.
Well,
And I think that's-
perhaps there is something. Perhaps
Sorry.
Sure. Perhaps there is something else that could be done, but it cannot be a four-way stop.
So and when you're asking Bob to measure for sightline, does that need to go through TMAC, or is that just internally through you're asking him, do we as a committee need to do anything in terms of that? Because I know you just asked him to measure for sightline.
No, I mean, the committee can recommend that the engineering division do it. However, I don't want to leave a possibility unexplored. I believe we already did take a look at the sight lines before.
Yeah,
Okay.
But
I can't recall the numbers, but I do believe yes.
right, so, just to be on the safe side, let's do it. Let's just go out and measure it.
Any other members of the committee have a comment on this? I don't know if there's also anything from Lieutenant McGrath from the police on this specific intersection. Any comment or concern?
I do recognize the petitioners. I did hear about that motor vehicle stop, and by happenstance, the officer was there and stopped the individual. But looking at that intersection in terms of data-wise, it's not a high crash intersection that we see. So I understand the frustration that Mr. Hagler's having, because like you said, it's coming before the committee quite often, but I don't know, Rain, I thought, weren't we looking at potentially the curbing being changed in that intersection at some point? If that was the last meeting in 2019 to try and, I can't remember if that was it. It was something about the driveway being, the gentleman's driveway went right out into that intersection. So we were looking at the potentially redesigning the intersection. And I could be wrong.
I can't recall. I'd have to go back to the notes. It was quite a while ago. If I could touch on the dash lines, I think we did that as low-hanging fruits to try to keep the traffic flow, because it's a bit skewed, to help track it. But it wasn't done because of the four-way stop. It was more to help keep the traffic in the proper laning, which we do at various locations through town. But I'll have to look at the curb request. It's not in our plan yet.
Anyone else, Suzanne, Seth, or anyone else from the
I'm
committee wanna
I'm
comment?
just curious, Tony, like if you go out and do the measuring of the blind spots, what are potential things that could happen after that?
I don't know if you recall, but there are some exceptions that are really based on engineering judgment. If you remember the intersection of School and Warren, remember when it was a two-way stop, and then we made it a three-way stop, and then they changed the they made some revisions to the MUTCD, which actually allowed us to put in a four-way stop there. So, I mean, I don't think there is a site problem here, but it doesn't matter. Let's do it. Let's measure it and find out. And if there's anything that we can do, then fine, we'll do it.
Is there any reason to think that traffic flow may have changed since the last study, or that stays pretty consistent?
Well, typically, as long as the traffic counts are within 5 years, this one happens to be, I guess, 4 years. But as long as it's within 5, it's considered acceptable. I don't have any objection if the committee wants to recommend that we put out the traffic counts again. We do traffic counts again.
I wonder, is this, I know this is a school route to Mitchell, correct?
Correct.
Is this within a safe zone or a school zone? Does that make any difference? This is this drives me crazy when there's kids crossing and on their bikes, and then you're like, well, we can't do it because of the MUTCD. So I'm wondering, is it close enough to Mitchell to figure something else out in terms of safety zones and school zones, or is it too far?
It's not in a safety zone, and it's not in a school zone.
Tony, is there ever a case that the select board can go outside the warrants, or does that open up things to other issues? Like the petitioner saying there's a common sense solution, and they can see, we can show evidence that there's been multiple petitioners on the same issue, and the steps that have been taken aren't working. Can you put a four-way stop in outside the warrants, or does that open the town up to additional problems?
No, no municipality, not even the state, can enact a regulation which is contrary to the MUTCD.
Okay.
If they did, it would be considered negligence. We would be creating a regulation that we knowingly are aware that it doesn't comply.
Okay.
Any accidents that occur after an action like that was taken would be totally would be totally the liability of the town, which means that the $100,000 cap, which is provided through state law to municipalities, would not apply because we broke the law.
Okay.
So I think we should probably reset some of the, or at least have a refreshed data set, so we can see how far off this is again. and as well as some speed, because then there may be something that, from an advisory sign perspective, we could do on Falcon, dangerous intersect or something. But at least having first some counts, I think is a good first step. I'd like to make a motion that that the TMAC asks the engineering department to do a type speed count test on Falcon and Bond, or count on Falcon and Bond.
I'll second it.
Is there any reason to think that we might want to hold off until like September to do that? Because of COVID
Oh,
traffic?
COVID, yeah. COVID.
Yeah, because we don't want to get data that then we're gonna, have to.
You might
No,
be
yeah.
artificially low a little bit.
Right, so just for the petitioner's sake, that, the traffic counts are just off right now because commuting is so skewed. And potentially waiting until September would give you a better chance of getting an accurate count.
Makes sense.
I agree.
Okay. Can we just?
And they do
say
the
that-
measuring though, checking the sight lines sooner? That can
Yes.
happen, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So I withdraw my motion.
Why don't we just amend it to be,
Yeah, actually, future, whenever we. So, all right, I withdraw my withdrawal. But we also say that we don't give a date. We'll just say that, we do a traffic count and we'll, aim for September timeframe given COVID, constraints. And the best judgment of the engineering department to get an accurate count. So we'll put the line in the sand and say September, but we'll reevaluate and it will be on the notes here. We'll take a look at it. See. Tony, you still second that motion? Because then we can get Daphne to do the roll call on that.
I would still second it.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Delgazo, Mr. Hoyland,
Aye.
Lieutenant McGrath,
Aye.
Mr. McCullen,
Aye.
Mr. Bauer,
Aye.
Ms. Tarantino,
Aye.
Ms. Stein.
Aye.
The motion passes. Oh, you have three
All right.
attendees. Justin, there are three members of the public. I wonder
Yes.
if any of those had any comments on that particular.
Thank you for letting me know. I
Item.
didn't see
I'm
that
sorry.
visibility from my screen.
Did you want to open it?
Yes, let's open up if there's any issues on they wanted to make comment on that. Thank you for catching that.
There are no hands raised on that issue.
Okay. Going once, going twice. Okay. Switch back. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Hagler. Hopefully we'll be able to get some data sets and the sight lines will be checked. That'll have to wait till September. So
All right. Thank you
hopefully
very
we'll be able to get something there. Thank you. All right. And this next motion, this was actually one of the motions that we had voted on last meeting on March 10th. The motion was, so I have to say what the motion was. We re-voted. Where was, this was the pedestrian face sidewalk.
It was the Charles River and Central Avenue intersection.
Can I ask a question?
Right. Yes, you can.
Daphne, are you allowed to remind us how the vote went last time, or we just have to vote fresh?
It's as though
So
you're
I can-
meeting,
These are in the minutes.
it is as though it did not occur. And so you had, there is something happened, but it wasn't even an official meeting because it wasn't posted. So that's why just meeting notes. And I think just maybe a brief synopsis of what occurred. and then open it up for vote, because you have to consider that this wasn't, the public
Sure.
wasn't aware of it. There were
Right.
a lot of people who were aware of it, but because it wasn't posted, so this is that opportunity. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So this would be in the meeting notes. This would be, so Charles River Central Ave, there was a crosswalk. David Lazarus proposed putting a crosswalk phase in the, on that intersection. There were members of the public talking about navigation from the south side of the kind of developments from the south side of Charles River to get across the Newman. Let me see, I'm reading. Mr. Bauer asked if there were any short-term pedestrian safety solutions. So there was actually, we had a lot of public comment on this, back and forth. And I think what this was is there wasn't, this wasn't even on the roadmap for long-term. And so there was a motion to add the pedestrian phase crosswalk improvements to the existing signal on Central Ave and Charles River Street to be included for consideration of the CIP list. And so that was the actual motion. Does anyone want to talk any more about the context behind this, or?
So would you like to introduce that motion again, Justin?
I guess if we're going to do so, I would like to introduce to add the pedestrian phase and crosswalk improvements to the existing signal at Central Ave and Charles River Street to be included for consideration on the CIP list.
I will second that motion.
All right. Mr. Delgazo.
Aye.
Mr. Hoyland,
Aye.
Mr. McGrath,
Aye.
Lieutenant McCullen.
Aye.
Oh, wait, no, Justin McCullen, Lieutenant McGrath. Justin.
Okay, you can have my job.
You got
I
him.
just got promoted. All right. And you're the chair. No. Okay. Mr. McCullen,
Aye.
Mr. Bauer,
Aye.
Ms. Tarantino,
She's on the call.
okay. Ms. Stein,
Aye.
the motion passes.
Okay. And yeah, there was another thing we talked about, but we never did any motion on it. That was speaking about the proposed development of daycare center but there was nothing that in TMAC's realm, so we didn't actually make a motion for that. And then there was one last agenda, which was Heather Simons of 65 Women Road on speed and signage on Charles River Street, where she was talking about deer on Charles River. And so after some conversations, there was a motion to install a deer crossing sign and a 30 miles an hour speed limit sign on Charles River Street along Ridge Hill Reservation. The location of the signs to be determined by the DPW with input from Parks and Forestry and Conservation Department and authorization from the property owner on the east side. So with that being said, I will motion that. Unless there's
I will
anyone
second it.
else.
All right.
We do have
Oh,
one
you-
more
you do have-
attendee. I don't know if, well, we can just, we have
Yeah.
one attendee. If there was, that hand wants to go up, Mr. McCusker? Or is he just observing? Just want to make sure there was an opportunity to talk on this agenda item. And I don't see the hand, so, okay.
Right. Mr. Delgazo,
Aye.
Mr. Hoyland,
Aye.
Lieutenant McGrath,
Aye.
Mr. McCullen,
Aye.
Mr. Bauer,
Aye.
Ms. Tarantino, Ms. Stein.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you. All right. So that being said, I know everyone was here at the beginning. We normally, before we do adjournment, we normally don't meet in May because of town meeting. A lot of town departments need to prepare for town meeting, and there are some town meeting members on the committee, so we historically haven't met in May. If there's no objection, I found a keep with history, and we'll put our next scheduled meeting in June. Unless I hear any objections, comments, or concerns. Without hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. And if I don't hear one, I will entertain.
Motion to adjourn.
Excellent.
All right, Mr. Delgazo, Mr. Hoyland,
Aye.
Lieutenant McGrath,
Aye.
Mr. McCullen,
Aye.
Mr. Bauer,
Aye.
Ms. Tarantino, and Ms. Stein.
Aye, this could be the quickest meeting of all the meetings we've had since I've been. on
I think there was one previous that was just, I think was a little bit quicker.
I think
What,
Rebecca's going to
23
be on
minutes?
longer than everyone else.
And I thought it was
Did-
Seth.
did
I
you
thought it
need
was
me?
Seth. I remember Seth, you had a very short meeting, but the next meeting was even shorter. So right now it's really, there is only one, I think it was 23 minutes. All right, so
Nice.
I will go ahead and stop
Yeah.
the meeting. All
Great.
right,
Thank
Thank
you very
you
much,
all.
everybody.
all right,
Bye.
everybody.
All right, have a good night. Bye.
Everybody.
Bye.
Night, everyone.